Taylor Eldrige joins us from the Wichita Eagle, Kansas.com. Taylor, you've been out playing golf. Tell us about that outing. I didn't know you were a golfer.
Yeah, me and some of the media guys, some of the television guys, picked up golf this summer. So played a little round at Auburn Hills.
Wow, picked a tough course. So I got to ask, what was your score?
Well, you got a couple, foot wedges, a couple mulligans. We'll call it a soft 91.
There you go. We'll take it. Let's get into those Shockers. Just back from a trip to Greece where they played 3 games. No idea about the level of competition. You were able to talk with their head coach, Paul Mills, after some of those games. What did you take away from those conversations and then from what you were able to watch during that tour of Greece?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that struck me was just the flow on offense, the spacing. You can tell that these guys have really been drilled about spacing, and there's always 2 players at the very far edges of the corners of both sides of the arc, and then the guy on the wing is always properly spaced. There's a lot of room inside of the paint to drive and for the big man to operate with that pick and roll game. So that's one of the bigger things that kind of struck me. Some of the clips showed really good ball movement. 5 players touching the ball in less than 5 seconds. I don't know if we saw too much of that last season. So I think that'll be a welcome change for, Shocker fans to see a little bit better, continuity on offense, a little bit better rhythm, better flow. It remains to be seen if, the shooting improves, but you hear it all the time that, they shoot well in practice. We'll see if it translates to a game. But and then the other thing was maybe like the offensive rebounding. Some of these guys that they brought in, Ronnie DeGray, Dalen Original, Quincy Ballard back from last season, all 3 of those guys really attacked the offensive glass. In the clips that I saw and then the box score that they sent over, they were really, really, really good at tracking down their own misses. So that's something that you could expect, coming up this season, because I think he is going to play a lot of 2 big lineups, with Kenny Poto, Jacob Germany, Kenny Poto, Quincy Ballard, some kind of combination between those 3. I think 2 of those guys could share the court, at least some of the time this season. So that's going to make Wichita State a pretty good offensive rebounding team, would be my guess.
Yeah, that's part of where I was going, Taylor. Just who you think fans should prepare to see on the floor, not just the combinations, but will Bijan Cortez be eligible? It sounds like they're really clamping down on waivers. So do we expect Ronnie DeGray to play this season? The 2 big thing, like you mentioned, who should we even prepare to have playing for the Shockers when the season begins?
Yeah, so, probably the best players are going to be, Kenny Poto, back for his 3rd year, and then Colby Rogers, who sat out last season as a redshirt transfer. He's looked really good so far in summer practices. So those are, 2 names to get you started. And Jacob Germany, he's a grad transfer from UTSA. He's, started 4 years, bringing a ton of experience with him. Then like Harlan Beverly was one that I thought maybe boosted his stock, in this Greece trip. I was really impressed by his vision, his ball handling. He played an entire game at point guard, which is, if you're a Miami fan, that'd be pretty surprising because, he played on the wing, didn't really do too much handling of the ball, for the Hurricanes last year when they were, going to the Final Four. So, he's a 6'6" wing. He averaged, 3.5 assists as a sophomore. So, he has the ability to do it, and I think Paul Mills is going to tap into that, use him more as a secondary ball handler. Xavier Bell, the Andover Central native, another name that's kind of played more minutes at point guard. As you mentioned, Bijan Cortez, unable to practice, unable to play right now, facing academic issues. So, as the last I heard, they're confident that he'll be ready to go for the start of the season. So, he's the only natural point guard on the roster, so you can expect him to make some kind of impact there as well. So Isaac Abide is another name. It's a returner, saw spot minutes last season. I think he's going to see an increased role this year. Quincy Ballard, big trip in Greece, 3 straight double-digit games. And then the pickup that I really like is Dalen Original. I feel like a lot of people just looked at, he averaged 5 points, came off the bench for an average Missouri State team, and they just kind of wrote it off. But if you look into the numbers, hyper efficient, shot 42% on threes, great offensive rebounder, great shot blocker in the minutes that he did play. So I think that's a good example of Paul Mills identifying someone that maybe didn't fit in another system, and I think he's going to flourish with WSU. I think he's going to see a much larger role, could even end up in the starting lineup, I think, and really be a key player for the Shockers this year.
Talking with Taylor Eldrige, Wichita Eagle. I was going to ask you about Quincy Ballard because I also noticed his productivity in the games in Greece. After not a ton of productivity here when he was healthy last year, is that real or is that a mirage? Because so often these overseas trips produce some mirages. What's real about his performance?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put too much stock into the points. I think it was 16, 16, 11. The first Greek team they played is kind of like, a kind of an older group that you would find at the Y. That's the competition they were kind of playing. And then the Calgary team they were playing, actually pretty good. They're like a good low major college basketball team is what I've been told. But all of their centers are, undersized because they play pick and pop. They play, 5-out spacing. So not a lot of resistance for him. But the things that I saw on those clips that were promising was that, he just looks so much more comfortable rolling to the basket. I think it goes back to the spacing that we talked about earlier. He's got more room to operate. People are actually looking for him on those lobs. But, obviously the competition level is going to be much, much higher in the American Athletic Conference. So, I mean, I wouldn't put too much stock into thinking that, Quincy Ballard is, going to average double-digit points for the Shockers this year. But I think it is encouraging. It's a step in the right direction to see that he can do that, can be a lob threat. And, some impressive clips of him blocking shots. That's kind of the vision for WSU, having being that rim runner and then that shot, that rim protector on the defensive end. Always going to be tough, playing him on defense if they're playing man-to-man because, teams are just going to put him in pick and rolls and force him to guard those little guards. But it'll be interesting to see how they employ him because, Kenny Poto, Jacob Germany, that's a pretty good combination. How many minutes are available behind those two guys? But I think that was an encouraging trip for sure for Quincy Ballard.
Yeah, you talked about Original shooting 40%. I know Cortez was around there. A couple other guys who have had smaller roles were at other places were good shooters. What do you think is fair to expect when those guys, start to play 20, 25, 30 minutes a game? Can we expect that they'll have that same level of efficiency, or do you think the percentages will go down? How do you think it translate when guys put up some numbers, maybe in more limited playing time?
That's like a running joke in the Wichita State fan base is that they shoot really well before they put on a Shocker uniform, then they come to Koch Arena and those 40% shooters become 30% shooters. The last 4 years, we've seen a lot of good shooters that were good shooters beforehand come and then just not really figure it out at WSU. So I don't know what that's about, but obviously Paul Mills has a strong track record of good three-point shooting teams at Oral Roberts. So I think he's trusting that it's going to be closer to that than what the Shockers have been, these last 4 years. But the coaching staff, they've told me that when they're looking at the transfer portal, they're looking at those high major guys that are transferring down, that didn't get as much playing time. They always look for efficiency. They want guys that were very efficient in the minutes that they did get on the court, and a lot of these guys fit the bill. Ronnie DeGray, Harlan Beverly, guys like that, Dalen Original, all three of those guys, even Bijan Cortez, the turnover numbers are what kind of limited his efficiency, but he shot it really well. So, all those guys are good bets. We'll see, like you said, it's always a little bit, it's a different ball game when you go from, 10 minutes a game to 20 minutes a game. But, I think they took a lot of smart, swings in the transfer portal. I really like Harlan Beverly's game. Ronnie DeGray had a very strong showing in Greece. And you mentioned earlier, he's going to need a waiver as a second-time transfer. And I think that's maybe why you saw them use that last scholarship on Dalen Original because, it's kind of insurance. They play the same position. If the NCAA forces him to sit out, now you have a veteran that can play the 3 and the 4 and help the Shockers right away. So, I think all those transfers are going to be guys that are going to play a lot this season. So, Shocker fans need to learn those names. And like you said, Bijan Cortez still needs to get academically eligible. But if he, is able to play, I've been told that he's a playmaker. He's going to make things happen on the court. He's flashy. He's got the long hair. He's got the cool name. A lot of people think he will be a fan favorite at Koch Arena if he is able to get out there this year.
Taylor Eldrige with us. So you've had an opportunity now to watch Paul Mills in action. What have been your impressions of how he runs a practice, how he's going to run a game, what kind of depth he's trying to build? Is he a coach, in your opinion, that will have a short bench, or is he a guy that's going to use a long bench and utilize a lot of depth?
Yeah, very, very meticulous, I would say. It's I didn't get a chance to watch a ton of practices, before, but, Paul Mills has been, very gracious with, letting us in and watch a couple of the practices, before they left for Greece. And, yeah, just like how detail-oriented he was. If someone would do just anything little that was not the right way that he was teaching, he would blow the drill dead, force everyone to do it again. And, they have tape on the floor, instructing where players need to stand, where players need to run and transition. It's pretty cool to watch, stuff like that take place, that foundation being laid. But yeah, it's all about spacing. And, he really wants the middle of the floor clear, basically the paint extended, those two lines. He doesn't want anyone other than, the ball handler running down the middle. He wants everyone like hugging the very, very side, running basically on the sidelines down the floor. So I think you're going to see much better spacing this year for Wichita State. We'll see if that translates to better offense. But, I've listened to some podcasts that he's done. He's a great X's and O's mind, very well respected. So I think he's really going to be, we're going to see some positive things from the Shocker offense. I think that's, pretty fair to say, easy expectation, especially after the last couple of years where, WSU's offense has kind of been stuck in the mud and not really been very efficient at all. So I think you're going to see an upgrade there right away. We'll see, if that translates to more wins, but I think it's going to be aesthetically more pleasing. And just the way that he teaches, he gets after it in practice. And then he's got, Quincy Acey, who looks like he could still play, and he still, practices with these guys. He'll get after it, with the big guys down low. And I think that really helps them, toughen up. Someone like Kenny Poto, I think that's what a lot of fans want to see him get, a little tougher maybe inside. And, working with Quincy Acey, I think that's going to really help him in his third season. So I think the spacing, the shooting, some of the plays that they're going to be running on offense, it's going to be much different than what we've seen, the last, 3-4 years since Wichita State has really kind of hit that rut on offense. So I think it'll be exciting times. We'll see if he's the right guy to turn it around. Everyone I've talked to in national college basketball media, very high on the hire. Obviously all the coaching people I've talked to, Jerome Tang, he's very, very confident that Paul Mills is the right guy for the job to turn this thing around. So we'll see. I think it's going to take time. I think, this first year, especially until he brings, his own complete roster in. But it'll be interesting to see, what he's able to do with this first season, because I feel like there's not very, very low expectations, I would say, from the fan base.
Do you think the argument could be made that the conference this year will be better than it was last year? It seems like Florida Atlantic and Houston, as crazy as it probably sounds, can cancel each other out. And you could probably find a couple teams out of North Texas, UAB, Rice, Charlotte, that can at least be as good as Central Florida and Cincinnati were last year. And you could probably count on a little bit of an improvement from Wichita State and maybe Memphis and some others. So can this league be stronger, at least for a year, than it was a year ago?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, I think there is more depth at the top and the middle, but they're also bringing in, two teams that are going to, really hurt the net. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I think it does have a chance to, potentially get, 3 bids, but I feel like I say that every summer, where I feel like, you look at it optimistically in the conference and you're like, okay, these two should be able to get bids. And then, somebody sneaks up and as the third. Very rarely have we seen in the American, though, this conference get 3 teams in. So, Florida Atlantic, it's looking like a top 10 team. Memphis is looking like a top 25 team. They've completely reloaded their roster. Jaquan Walton, former Shocker, is with them now. So those two are like head and shoulders above everybody else. And then I think you're right. North Texas, UAB is kind of that next tier. And then it seems like, SMU, Wichita State could maybe be in that group if they surprise. So, I think it will be a solid league. But in the net, I think it's going to come out to be just about the same, just because, you're adding some good teams, but you're also adding some bad teams. And now it's a bigger league. So I think it's going to come out just about the same. I think the American, they're safe for about 2 bids, 3 if, someone really, really surprises.
All right, one more question for you, Taylor. We do appreciate your time. All the realignment talk certainly brings football to light. Wichita State hasn't had football now in 37 years, if I'm doing my math correctly. Yet there's never a month or maybe even a week or a day that goes by without somebody talking about when Wichita State's going to bring back football. Certainly in the light of realignment, we see the importance of college football. It pertains mostly to college football. And I see on Twitter that some people are starting to propose that. I want to reach out to all of them and say, that's really never going to happen. There's never going to be college football again at Wichita State, certainly not in my lifetime, and I doubt in yours, Taylor, and you're significantly younger. How often do you hear those football bells start to toll?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the fan base, they just kind of keep that dream alive in the back of their head. And, when stuff like this comes up and they make that push, they say, Wichita State needs to add football, to get back in the conversation, to, have a little more control over their destiny. But, yeah, you're right. I mean, I would agree with you that, it's not going to happen anytime soon, probably not in our lifetime. So, and, you just look at the reconstruction of, the renovation of Cessna Stadium, what they're doing there. That's like clear number one. I mean, that's what should kill that argument that, if there's ever any chance of them adding football, well, they're building that stadium to be a soccer stadium with the capacity. It's not going to have, the attendance capacity for, a football, for what you need to start a football program. So, they're kind of just ending the dream with that, in my opinion. So that should be enough to convince people. But I know there's always going to be people that want to see Shocker football back. But I don't hear it as much as I did, maybe 5-6 years ago, when they first moved to the American. But I'm sure it's there's always going to be holdouts, always going to be people that want to see that program brought back. A lot of good memories for people, in the fan base, so I understand it. But, yeah, I mean, it's just unrealistic is what I would say right now.
All right, Taylor, really appreciate you giving some time to us today. Congratulations on your 91 out at Auburn Hills. We'll catch up soon, okay?
I got to do better next time. All right, thank you.
Hi, this is Shannon Storms-Bedore, Real Housewife of Orange County and entrepreneur. When my company, Real for Real, started selling our health products online, we really struggled to find a way to ship our orders out quickly and without error until we started using ShipStation. ShipStation's simple dashboard makes it easy to automate shipping tasks and effortlessly manage your orders from every marketplace, including Amazon, Etsy, Shopify, and more. Print shipping labels, easily compare rates and delivery times, and take advantage of discounts up to 84% off USPS and UPS rates. And with enterprise solutions that make warehouse optimization easy, ShipStation scales when your business does. No wonder 98% of companies that stick with ShipStation for a year become customers for life. Spend more time growing your business and start automating shipping tasks with ShipStation. Go to shipstation.com/audio today and sign up for your free 60-day trial. That's shipstation.com/audio.